Yeah, this isn't very pleasant to speak on, but I mean, it's important and we have to talk about when it happens. Northwest ICE Center uses chemical agents on immigrant detainees by Nina Shapiro of the Seattle Times. Trigger warning, this includes suicide. So I think I'm just going to read out the story and then when I have something to opine on, I will. The multi-billion dollar company that runs the immigrant detention center in Tacoma confirmed deploying chemical agents Wednesday as conflict over allegedly inadequate food and unsanitary conditions escalate. From what I understand, the detainees of the immigrant processing center were on strike because of the bad conditions that they were in. CEO Group guards at the Northwest ICE Processing Center took the measure after U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement authorized non lethal use of force in response to a confrontation during a housing unit inspection that discovered contraband razor blades, which, is totally an adequate response, right? They find like some razor blades and they're just going to douse these people in chemical agents. It's totally inhumane. The unit's detainees barricaded their door before the chemical agents were used, according to GEO and a witness. And multiple reports say that a hunger strike is taking place at the facility, though that's contested by GEO. Gee, I wonder why they would contest that, eh? That's so messed up, man. Maru Mora Villapando of the group La Resistencia, which closely follows conditions at the detention center, said Wednesday's confrontation marked the first time she's heard of chemical agents being used at the facility, though there have been reports of tear gas used at other immigrant detention centers. These people, I think they run an Instagram. It's full of like a ton of. Here, I probably shouldn't look it up on stream. Think. I think it's these people. Nope. I'll look for it later. But yeah, they run like the social media accounts, basically, kind of detailing when terrible stuff like this happens. And I mean, even for them, to say that this is the first time that they've heard of like these chemical like weapons being used is it's just heartbreaking. And she also said one detainee tried to kill himself after the incident, and apparently another detainee died at the facility in 2018 by suicide. It's just cruel, man. I mean, it's just so inhumane, the conditions. It's so frustrating too that after the administration had swapped from Trump to Biden's, you would have hoped that he would have done more things to change how it was. And we were all, during 2016, 2020 when Trump was president, like how inhumane these cages are, but it's just something you don't really hear about anymore. It's very frustrating. It's something that we definitely need to, I think, make more noise over, because it's just so inhumane the way like all these people are treated. The confrontation taps into a battle between state officials who want to ban privately run detention operations and the corporate and government entities that seek to keep them running. It also highlights the opaque way the Tacoma facility runs, with confusing messages about who's ultimately responsible for an institution operated by a private company under contract with U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement. This is the worst part, I think, about it, because it just seems so incredibly corrupt, the way that it's just like, oh yeah, we're just gonna give you this contract company that we don't really know, and you're gonna be able to do like what we should be doing, like in house, basically. It's just like it's an extra step of messed up, in my opinion. These latest reports are alarming, the Washington Attorney General Bob Ferguson said in a statement. Unfortunately, they are consistent with the concerns my office has had regarding the unlawful and unsafe conditions at the Northwest ICE Processing Center. And here's the statement from GEO. GEO fired back in a statement, strongly refuting baseless allegations the Florida based company called the part of a long-standing radical campaign to attack ICE contractors, abolish ICE, and end federal immigration detention by proxy in Washington. I don't understand why people find like the idea to abolish ICE so radical, because ICE has not existed for very long. There's something that tripped me up when I first figured out about it too, but ICE has only been around here for a couple of years. This is something that started in the during the Bush administration. You know, it's younger than I think it's younger than me and like my little brothers. This is a system that has not existed for like over 20 years, and we've seen like countless atrocities that it has committed. And it's like, yeah, I think it's sensible that when a part of the government is failing this badly, you'd want to abolish it or change it or do something else. The way the system is currently operating does not work. And here's an ICE spokesperson. David Yost, an ICE spokesperson, wrote in an email that the agency is committed to ensuring that those in its custody reside in safe, secure, and humane environments. We've spent like the last like 10 years basically almost at this point. I believe the detention centers now are about 10 years because they were made under Obama, I think in his second term. A lot of these are about 10 years old now. And they didn't get too much attention until Trump was president. But I mean, these conditions have existed since Obama. So, I mean, I don't know what they mean by saying safe, secure, and humane environments. It just strikes me as so bizarre. Let's see, where was I? Yeah, Christopher Fiera, a GEO corporate relations manager, said by phone the company would only comment by email because all statements must be approved by ICE. The government agency sends immigrants to the facility that it charges with being in the country unlawfully. According to the statement, Ferreira later sent the Wednesday incident involved a small group of high-security detainees who were being disruptive, barricading themselves inside their housing unit and blocking security cameras. I mean, I don't really care what they were doing. That's like, you can't use chemical weapons to like douse these people in him, and just because they're being rowdy, like that's so incredibly inhumane. Staff were able to defuse the initial disruption, with more than half of the detainees complying. However, the remaining detainees continued to be unresponsive to staff orders. As a matter of protocol, this resulted in the use of chemical agents. Like, no, there shouldn't be a matter of protocol where it's like, okay, well, we've tried what we can, and now here's the chemical agents that we're going to use. Like, yep, that's the next step. The statement added, "We take the use of chemical agents with the utmost seriousness, and our staff follow strict federal standards as it relates to their use." This is terrible, man. It's just gonna stay like this too, is the unfortunate part. These corporations, GEO, and I'm sure there's a bunch of other ones that are running other immigrant detention facilities. They just have so much money that they can lobby like the government to be like, yeah, no, we're fine, dude, it's totally cool. Like, and especially for immigrants, because some people can kind of see like the jail system, it needs to be overhauled because it has the exact same problem. It's just a bunch of private corporations running these jails, and that's why you can get away with like training these people to be firefighters like prisoners and paying them like 20 cents an hour to like absolutely risk like life and limb trying to like fight like these blazes. I think they had some in California last time we had fires. It's so cruel. Yeah, I don't know what else I have. Oh, I thought the story was over. Kristen Dueñas, who's been held in a unit across and from the one where the confrontation occurred, said he could see and hear much of what happened. Okay, cool. That's good that we have like an eyewitness news that's going to report on this. The confrontation began, he said, when the guards inspected the unit, which Dueñas estimates holds roughly 30 people. The guards confiscated empty soda bottles detainees were using as water bottles. a use the guard said was prohibited. Are you serious? We're not gonna let you use these water, like these soda bottles as water bottles? Like, be serious. And they didn't mention razor blades, according to the dude that was there and saw. I mean, I'm inclined to believe him. I don't. I don't feasibly understand how these people would be able to smuggle in razor blades. Like in a jail, it's a lot larger, but these detention centers seem to be like a lot smaller. At least from the photos that I've seen, they kind of just keep everyone in like cages. Like, I don't understand how you're going to sneak in razor blades. When the detainees got upset, the guards told them to go back to their beds. The detainees refused, according to Dueñas, saying, "You can't treat us like it's a prison. Detainees are subject to civil, not criminal, deportation proceedings." He knows his rights. That's great. The situation escalated from there. Guards began removing items from the unit. An Xbox video game console, tablets, even chairs, Dueñas said. When most of the guards left, detainees told the lone remaining officer to leave. She left because she saw it was escalating out of control. Detainees then barricaded the door, he said. Dueñas said guards dressed in helmets and body armor arrived and unsuccessfully tried to talk with the detainees, then threw what he described as 3 grenades, one that gave off smoke and 2 that emitted something like tear gas. GEO did not respond to a question about what kind of chemical agents were used. I hope it was something like tear gas, because there's a lot of chemical like agents, nerve agents and stuff that is just absolutely terrible for you. It increases your likelihood of cancer. And America has such a rich and profound history at using these terrible like chemical agents that'll just absolutely destroy people. You could smell it from across the hallway, Dueñas said. Guards then led detainees, coughing and choking, out of the unit in handcuffs. Tim Warden Hertz, directing attorney for the Northwest Immigrant Rights Protection Project Tacoma office, said one of the organization's lawyers talked to a client from the affected unit Thursday. That client echoed Dueñas' account in several ways, including the describing detainees as upset, officers responding by taking items out of the unit, and detainees shutting the door and getting hit with gas bombs. Yeah, it looks like he has someone to corroborate what was said. Warden Hertz said the use of gas in a confined space is incredibly troubling. It's also deadly, if I'm not mistaken. I think if you use tear gas like in an enclosed position that doesn't have like good ventilation, that will kill you, because the tear gas is just like not gonna let you breathe, and like it's gonna like swell up your esophagus. The account relayed by Warden Hertz did not mention an inspection or confiscated soda bottles setting off the confrontation. Rather, the client said detainees in the unit were on hunger strike and demanding to talk to ICE. I still don't see what, like, this is just such an overreaction to like them being on a strike or just being upset, it seems. Dueñas said he and other detainees in his units are also on hunger strike in protest of miserable conditions that include food that is undercooked, inadequately portioned, and erratically delivered. He said one day of this week, guards served dinner at 8:30 p.m., 7 hours after lunch. Eesh. It must be terrible, those conditions, and never knowing where you're going to be fed, and just having to walk around these guards that'll just like throw these chemicals at you if you act like a little bit out of line. They're not criminals. These, like the article says, they have to be processed through civil litigation. They're not criminals. Mora Villapando of La Resistencia said at least 100 detainees are on a hunger strike as of Friday. The organization and detainees have reported wave after wave of hunger strikes for years, often refuted by GEO and ICE. It doesn't make them look good, so of course they're going to refute it. While detainees have long complained about conditions, the situation seems to have worsened as of late. In January, Ferguson sent a letter to the Department of Homeland Security's Inspector General calling for investigation. into unsanitary living conditions and how GEO actions in Tacoma have put detainee health, safety, and welfare at risk. Ferguson has accused GEO of retaliating over a lawsuit he brought against the company in 2017, saying its $1 a day voluntary work program violated minimum wage law. Yeah, I mean, this is the exact same thing that happens in prison. For whatever reason, it's just totally okay to pay people like beyond like poverty wages to just do work. And people are so desperate, they need the money. What are they going to do? Say no? Ferguson won the case in 2021 and now it's under appeal. So they're still with the same program because it's still under appeal. In the meantime, GEO suspended the program instead of paying detainee workers more. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I guess they would rather do that, eh? And according to Ferguson, the company has failed to make up for the lost labor, resulting in filthy surroundings, poor food quality, and inadequate laundry services. Even though GEO eventually hired a cleaning company, detainees report cleaners come as little as once a week and work quickly and superficially, the Attorney General wrote. I mean, yeah, it's going to be a private company, and because of that, they have profits and whatever, and they're going to do everything and cut as many corners as they can because they can't use the slave labor that they essentially were using beforehand. GEO denies the allegation, saying, "We have taken all necessary action to ensure that the facility sanitation levels and food service operations and quality are maintained at the facility in accordance with all applicable federal sanitation and food service standards." Washington lawmakers passed a bill in 2021 banning most privately run detention centers. GEO sued and the litigation is ongoing. The 1,575 bed facility, wow, that's a lot of people, whose population plummeted to about 200 as ICE scaled back on operations due to the COVID-19 pandemic, currently holds about 600 detainees, according to the Northwest Immigrant Rights Project. Oh, man. Yeah, I don't know what else to add at the end of this. It's terrible, the conditions a lot of these immigrants have to deal with. And it's just made worse by like a system that absolutely doesn't care about them, doesn't even view them as human usually. Thinks that it's okay to keep them around as slaves. I just hope stuff can get better. I mean, we have to push for change. And it's just so frustrating seeing that, like, when the quote unquote good guys are in charge, like, nothing is changing still. Yeah. And I shouldn't have started on such a bummer. Hey, hey.